So, welcome back to another episode of 50KR2. It's been a long, long time since I've done one of these. Been probably a few years, but that's okay. Sometimes you're dry, you're doing things, life pops up, with full of, bouquets of surprises. Really fun stuff. So, what can I say? I've been doing my thing, just been doing my thing, and it's been a long, long time. Obviously, it's been a really long time since I've gotten down to some comedian business, and so I've been perusing the old YouTube because it's the only tube I really like besides probably horns and honkers and other things like that. And for whatever reason, part of the superhero gig is beating the living sparkles out of bad guys. And so in order to brush up on some of that, you got to learn some fighting techniques. And what can you say? Some of the easiest way to learn is watching the old, anybody and everybody on YouTube, of course. And you get to watching the mixed martial arts, the stuff that the pointy-eared guy does, and you just think to yourself, man, that would be so awesome to learn that. And it brings on other thoughts that are less gruesome, even though it's really fun to watch. There are some entertaining fellas. Other comedians, the no-touch masters, the wannabe space sorcerers, the guys who've been wearing too many headbands and being Hadouken. And so when you get to perusing through all that stuff, you end up looking at once you get past the other jokers online, you get to looking at some of the historical figures. And you get to perusing down the line of, say, like one of the more quote-unquote modern ones, even though he's pretty old and underground now, was the movie that looks like IP Man. IP Man. It's a joke unto itself. And so it's really pronounced the Eatmon or something like that. And he was the originator of, not the originator, but a carrier on of a big tree of called Wing Chun, and he was the guy that really brought the the Chinese martial arts to the Western world in a lot of ways. It was actually quite astounding on that story. But his big claim to fame was being one of the earliest teachers of, you might as well call him the Dragon of the West, Bruce Lee. He was the teacher of Bruce Lee. And I'll be honest with you, as far as the guy who really started mixing up the styles, it's really well known that Bruce Lee is that guy. You might as well call him one of the originators of, back in the early days of the superhero genre, really exploding with him as, Kato? For the Green Hornet. And I'm glad, my inspiration was never part of that, because he would have been, probably underground too. And so it's where he got his start in the movies. And so in his real life, he started being a dojo guy, right? I mean, they're not called dojos in China. I don't really know what they're called, but that is the term that got splashed over here in the West, mostly due to Japanese influences. Can be well understood. And so he's the granddaddy, right? Don't want to use he's the granddaddy of the mixed martial arts is kind of what we know today. And I'll be honest with you, I can't stand watching the movies. I can stand watching the movies where people laugh hysterically, but when you're sounding like you're going to use the sound to break your boards in people's skulls, it's a little annoying. I don't know why. It just didn't appeal to me. So I avoided the Bruce Lee movies themselves like a virulent plague, just kind of like other things. Just like a character avoids another one, stuff like that. Tom and Jerry. Tom and Jerry. So, but you get to watching his actual footage stuff and listening to interviews, yada, yada, yada. So you go down the line, and there's a famous scene. There's a famous scene that came out in the movies, and there's another old granddaddy that was here in the West. And he is, for all intents and purposes, another, I wouldn't call him a Jesus figure, but he is definitely a something. And there's this famous scene where Bruce Lee fights this guy. And he got more famous later on, but he was really famous back then for being a champion kickboxer? No, a karate guy, something like that. Anyways, it was one of the point fighting styles that's really deplored by the mixed martial artists, but you get to watch in the footage and you just don't want to get kicked by this guy. He's famous for the kick. And has a fun name, and a tree of jokes that is just absolutely spectacular. Absolutely spectacular. It's almost biblical. So I got down to the point of adding on my own portion of the Chuck Norris Bible, so to say. And it's because the joke lines are just funny, and I just had a mild inspiration to add on to it. So it's a little bit different take, but it's totally in line with kind of what he does. And here we go. It's a line of Chuck Norris casted for in movies, turned on its head a little bit. Like Chuck Norris casted for Star Wars, and he got the part that he's very well known for. Okay? I don't know if you caught that one, but it's glaringly obvious. May Chuck Norris be with you. And Chuck Norris casted for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Okay? But he, well, we'll put it this way. Chuck Norris casted for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but with him in the picture, it would have been Elderly Mutant Ninja Rat. Elderly Mutant Ninja Rat. Hero in a bathrobe, splinter power. Yeah, that was just the teaser. And so here's the rest of the list that spawned from that goofy garbage. Chuck Norris casted for the Terminator, but being bulletproof was a character flaw. Chuck Norris casted for Finding Nemo, but decided clownfish tasted badly. Chuck Norris casted for Edward Scissorhands, but thought it was a reality TV show. Oh, what a flop. Chuck Norris casted for Gone with the Wind, but it became The Wizard of Oz. Chuck Norris casted for Armageddon, and thought the drilling part was unnecessary. Chuck Norris casted for Lone Star State of Mind, and claimed Texas for himself. Chuck Norris casted for The 70s Show. Bet you didn't know that one. But he couldn't stop laughing at the foot up your ass lines. Chuck Norris casted for RoboCop, but refused to remove the cowboy hat. Chuck Norris casted for 8 Seconds, but killed the bull instead. Pardon my incessant laughing, but these jokes, I don't write a joke unless it makes me laugh. Chuck Norris casted for Twister, but Kansas issued a cease and desist. Yeah, kind of a flop, but not too bad still. Chuck Norris casted for Dirty Dancing, but made more than the movie did. Chuck Norris casted for The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, but Clint Eastwood beat him to the punch. Oh boy. Chuck Norris casted for The Karate Kid, but wanted it to be a solo act instead. My favorite lines. Chuck Norris casted for Batman, but didn't realize it was a documentary. Chuck Norris casted for... Oh, here's a good one. I like this one. Chuck Norris casted for The Dark Knight, but thought wearing a purple suit would be unfair. Yeah. Chuck Norris casted for Shrek, but it was a hidden camera movie. Hello, donkey. Chuck Norris casted for Night at the Museum, but it was a silent movie. Pardon me. Chuck Norris casted for Home Alone. Merry Christmas, you filthy animal. Chuck Norris casted for Freddy vs. Jason, but Robert Englund was the stunt double. I don't know why I laughed at that one so hard, but it was still good. Chuck Norris casted for Back to the Future. Man, that would have been a good one. The only problem was, he pronounced it gigawatts properly. Chuck Norris casted for Family Matters. And thus the tagline was born. Did I do that? Chuck Norris was casted for Tombstone. He was the Huckleberry. And the last one for the night, folks. Chuck Norris casted for the Santa Claus. Little did they know he was the Claus. And, you know, a few more Chuck Norris jokes. Why the heck not? Chuck Norris doesn't run for president because Mount Rushmore won't support the beard. Anyway, so I've let this show run on long enough. I hope you enjoyed laughing as much as I have, and you have a wonderful day or night wherever you are. 50K3R2 over and out.